Hey V, how's it going?
Fine.
Long time no see.
Yeah, right? Actually, that's true this week.
It is, it is.
Oh, I just got a notification on my phone. Talk Heathen starting.
Ooh, nice. All right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen. I'm never going to get tired of that. That is just way too fun.
I honestly missed that when I was in the other room. So
yeah?
I like it too.
Definitely. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you're here. All right. So it's August 2nd, 2020. It is season 4, episode 31. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Bianca.
How's it going? How was your week this week?
It was good. It was busy. I put out my very first How to Skeptic video.
Ooh.
Which is exciting and a long time coming. So that's up, that's out. I have my next live stream already prepped. I've got the script for the next one done. I've got the presets for Premiere. So like I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I've got my arms wrapped around this.
Good. And I got to see it. I really enjoyed watching it. I liked your androgynous cat cyborg.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the androgynous cat cyborg, just like for that alone, like forget everything I'm actually saying. Like that by itself. So good.
Definitely.
How about you? How was your week?
It was really, really good. So I got a couple really big things that happened personally.
Yeah.
Number one, I am finally, let me turn that around. I'm going to be employed again.
That's amazing.
My unemployment ran out on Friday, and on that very day, my old boss messaged me saying, "Hey, Eric, we think we can bring you back at least part-time."
That's amazing. Can you imagine if this was actually the first time you were telling me that?
Yeah, right. I'm really, really excited about it. On top of that, because of that, I'm going to be able to upgrade the internet because I know that it's been a little
bit shaky.
a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
And that is entirely because my upload has just been... Before we dive into calls, let's give our regular announcements. Talk Heathen is a product of the atheist community of Austin. The AC is a 501c3 nonprofit. If you like what we do and you want to support us, you can please consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. If you're watching, it is in the lower third, just below us. 2/3 of the way through the episode, I remembered, I thank our top 5 patrons. I do refresh it right live on the air. So if you want me to read your name today, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. We also have merchandise. You can definitely check out our merch because it's cool. bit.ly/AEN merch. And I've got one of the mugs right here. I'm actually really happy about it. I'm finally getting some things that from Talk Heathen that we can start putting out and up, and ooh.
We've gone through like mug withdrawal, like
a little bit.
The original set had so many that now we just need at least we've got at least 2 here.
Well, so. It was. I mean, it looked like we were doing the show in a mug factory, with what we had before. But I mean, this is something that people can buy. Like this right here. There's a big old Talk Heathen Stein. This was made by a fan, so that's not available. The Book of Eric, which I'm really excited about, is not available.
Psych out right there.
Sorry.
That's rough.
But if you like what we do, the thing is supporting Talk Heathen isn't just supporting this show. It's supporting the ACA. And the ACA does a lot of good work. It helps support shows like Secular Sexuality that you're on Thursdays.
Right.
The Atheist Experience, which is on after us. It has put out and produced shows like The Nonprofits, who are going to be on at 3 o'clock. Not the show,
like a round table situation with all the hosts.
Yeah, they're going to be on the Discord after this. Actually, can we pop the Discord link up? Because I'd love for people to drop in and say hi. Also, if we get the opportunity to, if we end a little early, we're going to hop over to the Discord as well so we can talk to people. Let's see. Is that about it?
I think so. I think
we covered so. If there's anything else, I'm sure I'll remember. All right. Actually, you know what? I see 4 calls on the line. Usually we have got like 15. It's changed now because we're not limited to 6. Now, as many people as call in, we can take. If you're a theist caller, if you're a religious caller and you want to call in, today looks like it would be your day. So if you've been waiting and you want to call in, call 512-991-9242. That's 512-991-9242. 9242. If you're international, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay international fees. You can go to tiny.cc/callth. Tiny/cc/ tiny.cc/calls/th. Blah. That's a mouthful.
Didn't do your vocal warm-ups this morning.
I did not. All right. Now, let's dive into calls.
Sounds good.
Hadi, in Greensboro, how's it going today?
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's doing really well. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I was thinking we would pick up from the last time we talked, which was about, what was it? It was about the nature of truth.
Okay. So I remember the last time we talked, we got to a point where, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm remembering this correctly. We were talking about how something is true, and we were relating that to because it impacted your life positively. And so the question then became, well, let's take truth out of it and talk about, whether or not something impacts your life positively and whether or not that correlates to it being true. And then we kind of spiraled into, well, what is true? Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what you guys remember?
I do. I think that that original take was kind of a more utilitarian one because it's useful, then we can accept it, right, versus a correspondence theory of truth, which is more along the lines of, does it correspond to reality? Because that which corresponds to reality is truth. Hadi, does that sound about right?
Sounds about right to me.
All right.
Cool.
So what have you been thinking this last couple weeks?
Well, I think the direction that I'm kind of trying to take you guys in is that there isn't really, for an individual human, there isn't really an objective truth. So at the end of the day, the decisions that we make aren't really made based on things that we would consider like, rational, logical, whatever. They're based on, these feelings that we get about what is true and what is not. And, you can go ahead and...
I'd actually want to kind of push back just a little bit there, because your definition of objective truth, I don't think is one that's useful. When you're saying that we don't have access to objective truth, what is objective truth?
I think last time we said it was, life, the universe, and everything.
That's 42. As far as objective truth is concerned, last week we said that it can be objective so long as we agree on the objective. Now, is that ultimately subjective? Yeah, but you can't really escape that. I don't think, unless you're talking about objective truth that way, I don't understand how you're using the word objective truth.
Is it maybe more of a...
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is it more of a statement on how sure we can be that something is true? Like we can never be 100% sure that something is true? Is that kind of where you're going with objective, or are you talking about objective reality as like a thing that exists outside of our comprehension?
More the first one. I think that there is, there's no way to be sure.
Okay.
We can only get so sure.
That's kind of the human condition. And just for people who are watching and listening, the reason why we're kind of going in circles around this is because there is an argument for the existence of God that revolves around objective morality. And when you're talking about objective truth and objective facts, those are so closely intertwined that when we're having this conversation, there's a meta conversation going on between us and Hadi. And that meta conversation first needs to begin with us determining whether or not there's objective truth. Because if we can agree that there's objective truth, then we may be able to move on further into that argument. Just so everybody's kind of in the same place.
Right.
So go ahead, Hadi. Sorry.
No, I think you put that a lot better than I could have put that. So thank you. I think that was very helpful for me as well as the listeners.
Cheers. So
yeah, I don't even really know where to go from that. That is definitely what I'm trying to say, that there isn't really an objective that we can go for. Sure.
So it seems, I said this last week, and I know we didn't talk to you last week. I think it was 2 weeks ago. But last week we had a caller who had a kind of a similar argument, although not as well kind of thought out, which was pitting callers against each other. Now that's a bad thing for me to do. Never mind.
I mean, I'm up for it.
He wasn't any hottie, let me tell you that.
Right.
So there was this concept that because we can't know anything 100% for sure, and we all operate on, what he called faith or belief to some extent, all beliefs were kind of equalized and all truth was as true as everything else. And I used the analogy of high fructose corn syrup. Did you happen to catch last week's episode? Do you know where I'm going with this?
I didn't.
Okay. So here in the US, it's really, really hard to avoid high fructose corn syrup. Like you can try to avoid it, but it finds its way into everything. Like it's ridiculous. So if you're like, I don't think that high fructose corn syrup is good for me, so I'm going to do my best to limit the amounts of it I take and the amount that is present in my life. I'm not going to be able to eliminate it completely, but I can diminish the amount of it that I ingest, right? So for me, I see the same thing with faith or with belief. So I understand as an agnostic who agrees with you that we cannot be 100% sure about things, that we all have faith of some kind. We all exhibit some level of belief. But my goal is to eliminate as much of it as possible and get down to the point where I know that I have shaved off as much belief as possible and back that up with as much as I could prove as possible. So it's more of a degrees thing in my mind. So when you say, well, we can't be 100% sure of everything, therefore reason and logic are not as important as emotion and how you feel about things, I would push back on that and say, for me, I think that we can regulate how much we know, and it's better to try and know more. And I don't know if I'm rambling at this point.
No worries. I think there might have been a switch between the word believe and faith, because you want to shave off as many things as you have faith in as humanly possible, so that you can only have things that you have justified belief in.
Being, that final leap between the amount of evidence we have and the claim itself.
Absolutely.
So does that make sense, Hadi?
No, that makes complete sense, and I think that's a really, really useful metaphor. And to that, I think I would say that I don't necessarily see any difference between belief and evidence, right? So at the end of the day, right, all you're doing is you're taking in stuff with your eyes and your ears, and you're processing it, and you're modifying the little algorithms in your head that, the statistical algorithms in your head that tell you what to expect from the world, right? And whether that stuff that you take in and process is something that a lot of people agree on, or stuff that a lot of people don't agree on, is really kind of arbitrary, right? Because at the end of the day, how our brains work is just through statistics.
Well, I think that saying it's arbitrary is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I kind of want to go back around really quick and say that there is a difference between belief and evidence. What you believe is what you accept to be true.
Right.
Evidence is a verifiable point of data, right? And so there can be evidence of a thing, right? There can be evidence in a police locker that you don't have access to. You don't believe anything about it. And because of that, those words are different. That way we can have this kind of more nuanced conversation. But the idea that
I can live with that.
Yeah. But the idea that we, that everything's arbitrary. I mean, at that point, it muddies the water to the degree that, everything's, you're talking to, I'm an absurdist. Everything's arbitrary to a degree. It's just how it is. But that doesn't mean there's not value in it. And that doesn't mean that there's not a point. Like when you say arbitrary, my mind immediately goes to, then what's the point? Right? Is it arbitrary that medicine continues to try and keep us alive and healthier and happier for longer? Right? Is that arbitrary? I don't think so.
Well, I think if there's a couple of ways that you could answer that arbitrariness within that sort of, and provide reasons. Like medicine exists because from a faithful perspective, of course, you would say that, God gave us the instinct to take care of one another. God gives us purpose, et cetera, et cetera. From a non-faithful purpose, you would say maybe, we have evolved to care for one another.
Isn't that just kicking the can down the road, though? Because if it came from God, then isn't it just God's subjective take?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, so then it's useless in adding an extra step that's not necessary.
Well, that's something that I've thought about quite a bit, right? Because when you look at the kind of nature of God as this, or at least the way that I see God, and I look at him in this very broad sort of sense, it almost makes me think like, what is the point in thinking about all this stuff, right? This is the way because of the decisions of a creator that's far outside of my comprehension. So,
you just threw on that last piece. I was with you all the way up until you said something that had no backing, justification or evidence. But let me ask you this. If we cut that piece out and just made ourselves the givers of value, why isn't that enough?
I'm not sure I'm following here.
Yeah, so I like that line of questioning, which is, okay, so you're saying, well, everything is subjective. Even God has a subjective viewpoint, and we are experiencing God's subjective viewpoint, and that is our objectivity, but it is God's subjectivity. So if we take God out, so if we're acknowledging that everything is subjective anyway, what benefit does having a God in there at all bring to the equation? I would imagine the only reason people really hold on to the God idea is because they want to believe in objectivity and this concept of things have to be this way and they will always be this way and they always have been this way. But if God is also being described here as a subjective entity, then what use is God bringing to the table? Why don't we take God off the table and just say we have subjectivity and we are the ones who create value arbitrarily? We're the ones who decided that we want to care for each other. Why do we have to put God as being the ones who decided that we care for each other?
I mean, there's a number of reasons why you might want to do that. I think that the one that immediately comes to mind is the concept of an afterlife, eternal justice, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I understand that you would want to, but we're not talking about what we want here, right? We're talking about what is real. And a lot of the time, I don't want there to be a pandemic right now. I don't want to have to not be able to go out and see friends and interact with people, but that's unfortunately the reality of the situation. So I get where you're going with this, and I agree with you. There are a lot of reasons why people want to do that. What I'm asking, and I think what Eric was asking, is why should we? What are you bringing to the table that proves that God is there in the first place if we agree, all three of us, that the world is subjective and values are subjective? You're just adding that extra layer of, well, it's subjective because God. So you have to bring something to the table that convinces us that God is the reason for that subjectivity.
I think we're getting I think I'm getting a little lost in the weeds here. I don't know if you guys are.
You know what? That's okay. It's about 20 minutes in, so it's a good time to kind of chill and come back to it. I think I do want to reiterate something that you said, and that is that the idea of an afterlife, it is incredibly comforting. Yeah. It's I think that we would be remiss not to acknowledge that. Telling somebody that they're going to get to see their loved ones again is incredibly comforting. Mm-hmm. So is telling somebody that they're going to get $1 million tomorrow. But if those things aren't true, then they're hollow promises. And then the question is, what did you give up because of it? What did you do because of it? Mm-hmm. If I told you I was giving you $1 million tomorrow if you burn your house down today, that's not worth it. Now, how's that similar? Well, if you're in a religion that has pushed families apart, that has encouraged historically genocide, but even today, violence against numerous groups of people, has been a massive source of splitting of cultures, and not to mention just internally, right? The self shaming that we're taught when we're in religion of thought crimes. I mean, all of those things are things that we're paying the price for that $1 million tomorrow. So whether or not you like it, whether or not it feels good, I just want to back up what you said there. And that is that you need to bring to the table a reason why we should accept that, because there is a price that all of us pay.
And I'm just going to build off that real quick. If it's true, it doesn't matter that it has negative consequences.
Yep,
that's the thing. So like, we're not saying we don't like what religion does, therefore it's wrong. We're saying we don't like what religion does. There's a price that we pay if it's wrong, and this is the price. So this is why we care so much about deciding and seeing whether or not it's true. So we're certainly not saying we don't like it, therefore we're going to dismiss it. If that's how the world is, and someone sufficiently proves that, I'm just gonna have to deal with it, right? I'm gonna have to suck it up and be like, okay, well, that is reality. I guess I have to deal with that now. So I want to make sure that we're all communicating on that level.
Mm-hmm.
But Hadi,
okay, I think I have a much better understanding of where you're coming from now. Thank you for explaining that.
Yay,
for
absolutely.
Sure. And I do want to leave you with one thing. I hope you do call back. But I feel like the more we talk about this, I have a suspicion, and I hate putting motivations on people, and I don't like to do it. So tell me if I'm wrong. And next week, maybe this is what we can talk about. But it feels like you are at this place where you are becoming aware, or maybe you have been for a while, that traditional proofs for God's existence are not cutting it. And so the reaction is to stir up the water and to muddy everything and to say, oh, well, everything is subjective, therefore I can hold on to this. Or, well, we can't really be sure of anything, so I can be justified in believing this even if I'm not sure. And I get that instinct if that's what you're doing. And I'm not putting that on you necessarily. I know that's what I did for a while. But it's okay. It's okay if you do start to let that go. So, I don't know. That's all I kind of wanted to leave you with today.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind and thoughtful of you.
Yeah.
Hadi, you are an incredibly sweet guy. I'm glad you keep calling in, and it's fun watching your journey.
Yeah.
Take care, all right, man?
Looking forward to next time.
Okay.
All right. So there are people in the chat who are
North
like,
Carolina just has some nice theists.
They do. I agree. Some very nice atheists, too.
That too.
So there are people in the chat who are like, why are we getting the same callers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because those are the ones who called in. If you want to see us have that conversation with your uncle, tell your uncle to call.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we're going to get them. The difference between us and the people who are knocking on doors is we are not proselytizing. We are waiting for people to call us, talk to us, who want to talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we're limited. So if you do want to call, or you have somebody that you would love to see them talk to us, so that's a religious friend or family member, 512-991-9242, tiny.cc/callth if you want to do that online. All right, let's move on and talk to Vera in Colorado. Vera, you're live with Eric and V.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
What would you like to talk about today?
Hello. Well, I just kind of wanted to put my own 2 cents in regards to theism, my theism, and what I believe and kind of how I believe it.
Okay. Perfect. Wow.
So I'm. Thank you. So I was, to give some background, I'm Italian, an Italian American, and so I was baptized Roman Catholic. When we moved permanently to the United States, my mom was into paganism and Wicca, and so I was never actually ever forced to go to church or anything or follow any particular religion, because kind of following in my mom's footsteps, I'm one that just kind of believes in a higher power, but not necessarily a specific image of what it is or a specific type. It's more fluid. I'm one that believes that as you go through life, the higher power just kind of, is there, and you experience it throughout your life, how you do. And kind of, I know a lot of people do the, oh, thank God phrase, and people who are like to pick on atheists, like, but you don't believe in God. Why are you saying that? That's more of just like an expression. Whereas I think my belief is more fluid, in which it's not so much expressed outwardly, but more inward, like as you are as a person inside.
Sure. Can I ask you a question about that? Does it matter to you if that deity actually exists, or is it more useful to you as kind of a personal philosophy to follow?
For me, I would say it's more of a personal philosophy, not necessarily that it can, tangibly exist. There is no proof of that. So where there's the difference between belief and evidence, I do agree with that belief is more personal to one person. Evidence is what can be shown and proven to everyone. But I think also that personal experiences growing up in life may have also led to it being more of like a personal belief so much, or philosophy, as you put it. But my mom is typically the same way as well. My grandmother was actually an atheist, and my great-grandmother was a devout Roman Catholic. So we haven't necessarily followed like
devout Roman Catholic atheist.
Well, actually, devout Roman Catholic, and then spiritual but not religious kind of movie, and then
Well, Vera, first, I resonate with that a lot. I have a lot of friends who are like, it seems that Catholicism, and especially for some reason, like Italian American Catholicism, tends to move very much into that paganism kind of spiritual but not religious folklore element, where you start incorporating things from, your family and your culture, and just like building kind of your own religion out of it, with maybe Catholicism as a base. So that is very familiar to me. I totally understand where you're coming from there. Can you give me an example of how this belief in a higher power impacts your choices in life? Like what does this belief in a higher power compel you to do or not do, if anything?
Well, I mean, I think it's more fluid and based on the person in that sense. Like for me, the belief in a higher power has made me make sure I think back to previous experiences. Belief in a higher power at times just gives me motivation to keep going, because I just keep in mind that everything is fluid and it may not stay like this all the time. Okay. And so that's, if anything, it's kind of giving me motivation to keep going, especially because I have like a lot of medical problems and things like that. But I don't necessarily let it make the decision.
Right. Can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So my reason for asking that is that based on the way you presented it, I kind of assumed that it probably wasn't a motivating factor in your life in some kind of external way. Oh, I need to vote like this because the higher power tells me to, or I can't interact with this person because the higher power tells me to. I get that. And in your case, honestly, we don't have a disagreement necessarily. We would disagree on the value of proving things. But as a person, I don't see a need to try and compel you to think differently, outside of the fact that while you seem to be a really good person who is using this in as healthy a way, I guess, as a belief in a higher power can be, as kind of the just general coping mechanism, there are other people who use this kind of a thinking, a thought process. Oh, there's a higher power out there and I don't need to prove it, but I believe in it anyway, to justify some really horrible things. So for me, my problem is not with you at all. My problem is with the idea that we can justify actions based on an unjustified basis. Does that make sense?
It does. And I will, adding to that, because my biological father actually used the same basis. As you said, he was not one of the good cookies, we'll say, and was very cult-like, like a cult leader. Mm-hmm. And so when my mom kind of realized, I mean, mind you, she wasn't from the United States. She didn't come here till she was 27. So cults and things like that in Italy weren't very greatly educated on, you could say. Yeah. But so when she realizes this, that's when she went away, because I would say she agrees with you that someone can use it for their own personal, vengeance or plans or greed. And it does happen, unfortunately. And I do agree with that.
It absolutely does. And sometimes it's not even necessarily
an intentional thing.
Yeah, or it's not necessarily vindictive or bad. I mean, an example for me was I believe that there was some kind of collective unconscious that was this kind of network. Yeah, this mesh that kind of filled the world, man. And
tap into it.
But the thing is there's a whole line of products that you can buy if you believe in that.
Right, to help you tap into that a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, that led me to do a good number of drugs to try and tap into that, because I was told that would unlock my third eye. Yeah. There are so many things like that, if people go too far, you're right, they could not take medicine, which could be dangerous. There's an entire anti-vax section of the United States that kind of fits that bill. But it's because of that, some people say, why would you take this away from me, right? Why is it so bad if I believe in just something? I remember I was on a road trip with my ex-wife, and she was talking about star signs. And she was talking about it for about an hour or two. And I said, that's all BS, right? And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, they're called Barnum statements. What's that? And so she spent about 45 minutes on her phone. Then she started crying.
Oh. And
she said, Eric, that was really meaningful to me. It feels like you killed my puppy. Like, that was something really important to me. And I get that, people will reach out and be like, you damn atheists, why won't you leave that alone? Because when you're not wanting the best evidence for what you believe, those are leaving open threads that people can take advantage of.
Right.
And on top of that, I think that you could be disempowering yourself. There are plenty of people who believe in a higher power and use that higher power when they say that they went through Alcoholics Anonymous and quit. When they did it, and they should be damn proud of it.
Yeah.
So many people who yeah. And so because of that, I challenge you, Vera, if it doesn't seem like it matters too much whether or not it's real, then try and see if you can own some of those things, because having a purpose, I guarantee you, Vera, is way more important when you give it to yourself than when you think that somebody else gave it to you. Because when you achieve it, there's a sense of victory that just does not compare to anything else. And the idea.
I agree with that. And I wouldn't necessarily say that a higher power is what gives you purpose. For me, like I said, it's more fluid than that. It's more like just kind of motivation. I know that I create my own purpose in life. I have a purpose, and everything I've done, I've been through and I've managed to survive through because I'm the one who went through it. But I kind of think of the higher power and the times in which it was hard to keep going and I had lost, motivation for myself, because, we can't all be at 100% logical brained all the time. I kind of used the motivation of a higher power as in, okay, I've been through something like this before and I made it through. I had to keep pushing and I'll keep doing it again. Type of kind of like motivational, not so much as giving me my destiny or purpose in life.
Okay.
It sounds like that higher power is you then. I think that's awesome.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to come out and say it, but if we want to get labeling on that, I won't complain. I can't walk on water or anything. That's by the Pope, but
I mean,
that's about as fully as I ever got.
At that point, I think we're probably going to move on to the next call. But Vera, this was really sweet, and I hope this conversation helped in some way.
Thank you. It does. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. You as well.
Does this mean we actually talk to a higher power on the phone on Talk Heathen?
I do not want to put that out there because I've had so many theists call or want to talk to me and say, you just want to be your own God. And that's what's going to get clipped. Like that clip
right there
is what's going to get clipped and taken out of context.
Fuck it. I'm fine with that.
All right. Ooh, Hermer in New York. We've got some really good calls that came in. I am happy about that. Hermer, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
I would like to talk about prophecy and how it relates to today's world.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Let's start by making
so-
sure that we understand our definitions. That way we don't talk past each other. What is a prophecy?
Prophecy is like a look into what's going to happen in the future.
Okay. Does a prophecy need to be clear? Like, does it need to be specific, or can it be vague?
Yeah, it has to be specific. It has to tell you details of what's going to occur in the future.
Okay. So I'm excited to hear this because every prophecy that I've heard from and talked about with people in the past, it's always been very, very vague enough to kind of fit into any time and any place. So I'm excited, Hermer. What prophecy are you talking about?
I'm going to use biblical scripture. I'm going to use a biblical scripture. In the book of Revelations 21, verse 8, it says there will be like idolaters, coward people, and there will be fornicators. And in today's world, there are plenty of fornicators, cowards, and idolaters. And also sorcerers.
Were there idolaters, cowards, and fornicators 100 years ago?
Yes, there were.
Okay. Were there all of those things 1,000 years ago?
And it still is today. Yes, there was.
That doesn't sound like a very good prophecy. It just sounds super generic.
That is a good
because
prophecy because it happened. The Bible was written BC, before Christ, and now it's telling a prophecy of what's occurring in today's world. So,
Well, Revelation was certainly not written before Christ.
it was.
No.
It
But there
wasn't.
was the Old Testament, and then there was the New Testament.
Revelation is not in the Old
It has to do with
Testament.
Christ.
Revelation is not in the Old
was
Testament.
before Christ.
Hermer, Revelations is not in the Old Testament.
Yeah, Revelations is the last book.
No, it's in the New Testament. Yeah, I know, but
Right.
I'm just
You
saying.
know why? You know why it's the New Testament? Why we group those
Look at
books
today's
together?
world. There is idolaters. There is.
Hermer,
You could continue.
I want you
Yeah, you
to.
can continue.
We can't continue before we address this because this is important. If you're talking about Revelation as something that happened before Christ, then we need to talk about that because it definitely was written after. The entire New Testament was written after Jesus allegedly, was. So the Old Testament was before,
Yeah, but
and then
the
the New
Old
Testament is
goes
after.
goes against practices of evil. The Old Testament goes
Well,
against practices of evil too.
Hold on, that has nothing to do with the topic. That just kind of drives us into a different direction. Let's stay on topic. So you were saying that Revelations predicts a thing. When we responded,
Yeah, right.
your response was the Bible before Christ, and that made absolutely no sense to me. And so right now, I'm trying to make sense of what you're saying, but so far it's not coming across. Do you want to try again?
No, I'm trying to relate it to today's world. That's what I'm trying to do.
But then it's bad prophecy. Are there
is.
any prophecies that are actually specific? Because
Yeah,
I've
but
got the Book of
Bible
Eric
affects-
right here. And the Book of Eric,
I know you guys.
right? Yeah, in here it actually prophesied COVID for 2020.
Okay.
Would you believe that
Okay.
that's true? Would you believe that this book is true if it prophesied that?
Yeah, that's true, but it's also in the Bible. In the Bible, for some people,
Well,
they
hold on.
believe in the Bible, but some people don't believe in the Bible.
Hold on. So Hermer, it sounds like you might be waiting for your turn to talk. Follow with me, please.
Okay.
Because I want to have this as a back and forth between us that we can actually share this conversation. So Hermer,
Okay, sure.
I gave you an example, and now it's a facetious example that in the Book of Eric, it has prophesied COVID. Would you believe what is in the Book of Eric if I were to show you that there's a COVID prophecy in here?
If there is a COVID prophecy, then I'll believe in the Book of Eric, but it has nothing to do with God. The Bible
hold on.
has something to do with God.
Sure. The reason why is because I don't think it's a good reason to believe in the Book of Eric. Right? Because I could say, okay, hold on a second, Hermer, turn around and write down, I prophesy that COVID is going to happen in February of 2020, or at least come to the United States in a big way in February of 2020.
Okay, but is that prophecy actually in your book? Is it actually in your book?
I don't think that matters because I'm telling you why it would be a bad idea to
It
follow
does
it as
matter
true.
because it's given a view of how the world is today. And God was a person who was there for many years, according to the Bible.
Okay,
So
so
that's
if
why
I
I'm
just
trying to say that the Bible is believable because of the prophecy in the Bible.
Okay, so there are people who live and die in tons and tons of fictions. That is a thing
which
that
is
happens
written
in the
the
real
Bible.
world.
That people's gonna die. People's
Why is the
gonna,
Bible more
they're
important
gonna
than
commit fornication.
the Lord of the Rings?
Good question.
Because it gives prophecy. It tells you what's going to happen in today's world in the future.
Okay, so far you have not given a
Given
single
us-
prophecy.
Right, because Hermer, the prophecy that you gave to us that there would
but
be
there are tons of
fornicators
sorcerers.
and adulterers
Okay,
and
you
all
could
of
go.
this, those things were not only existed 1,000 years ago, they existed during the time of the writing. So it's not even something
but
where
in the
they
Old
make.
Testament, they go against those people, don't they? In the Old Testament,
What does that have to do with it?
it said to kill you if you commit adultery. And that's
What is that?
That's what's described in the prophecy, that there will be adulterers.
So you are,
I don't know how that has anything to do with what V just said.
if anything, you're proving my point
Yeah,
that there were
adulterers
back during the Old Testament. So of course, Revelation isn't going to say something new and exciting. Like, of course, adulterers exist. They existed back then. They existed during the writing of it. They exist today. If you believe in the concept of adultery, that is.
You said I was talking about just the New Testament. Remember, you said I was just talking about the New Testament.
When you're talking about Revelation, and so yeah, that is in the New Testament, and you
but
referred to
the Old
it as the
Testament
Old
also,
Testament.
but look though, in the Old Testament said there will be adulterers too.
Okay,
which
so
is also
shouldn't
in the New
that
Testament.
mean? So does that mean that it was the end times 1,000 years ago?
Yes, there was. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think that's pointless.
Wait, the end times was 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, it's just a really long
That means that we're just
time.
scot-free now.
No. It's
the
just
end times
really
is now. The
dragged
end times
out.
is now, actually.
Yeah,
It's
see,
now.
Oh, it still's happening.
Exactly.
It is still the end. Okay. Well,
Okay.
I'm going to predict that people with blue shirts will exist in 1,000 years. And that makes
But
me.
if you predicting, you're not God. You can't predict. I mean, you
Oh,
can make
now we're
predictions,
now we're into some circular logic here,
Yeah.
Hermer. Because if prophecy stands on its own merit, then I can prophesy. If a prophecy is only interesting because God did it, and you define who God is by who is giving prophecy, then it's not good.
Which means God doesn't lie, which is one of his typical.
That doesn't mean God doesn't. What
lie.
the heck are you talking about, Hermer? You're saying God because prophecy. How do I know? Because prophecy, because God. You are literally talking yourself into a circle. There is no sense in what you were saying. No, not because.
Yeah,
Bring
God
something
wrote
from
prophecy,
outside. Because
therefore
what
the
you've given
Bible
us
is
is
true.
a circle.
God made prophecy, therefore the Bible is true. Because there's
Eric wrote the book of Eric,
there's
therefore Eric is God. We can do this all day long. The difference is you believe in something when there's good reason for it, and you have not given any good reason. If you want to just throw stuff out there, then we can take turns throwing stuff out there and waste everybody's time. But it's not useful.
Can I share my experience too? Can I share my experience?
No, I'm not going to give this. No, dude. So this is a call-in show, not a place to share your testimony. Right?
I don't understand how your experience has to do with prophecy. Are we still talking about prophecy, or are we moving on to another topic?
Moving on to another topic.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's save that for another week then.
Is this your testimony?
Yeah, I wanted to give a testimony because I was one of those people that the Bible said about in prophecy.
I think that literally you're going to find that the entire time, going back through humanity. And because of that, it's so vague. It's not prophecy. I think it's lazy. And I think that it is ridiculous. And I think that if you follow that honestly, you can be taken advantage of by a lot of people.
Atheists. This is why I respect atheists, because they stay focused. They do what they have to do. And they don't, even though there are some atheist sorcerers, but still, they still do what they got to do. That's why I respect atheists.
So
I want to meet these guys. Where are they?
What is an atheist sorcerer? Hold on. Like yeah, no, we're bringing this back. What is an atheist sorcerer?
Person who practice witchcraft without including God.
It's me.
You're an atheist sorcerer.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
that is the thumbnail for this this call. So I would love for you to demonstrate sorcery or witchcraft or magic or powers or anything like that.
Yeah, but I've done that, but I've got in trouble with the church because I kept screaming in the church. So that's why I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's probably a bad idea. I would not go and start screaming in a church.
Especially if it's about witchcraft. That's
Yeah.
dangerous.
But that also has absolutely nothing to do with what's true and just kind of
wrong.
good
Usually when
social
you do
hygiene.
wrong, it shows it manifests in the church.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so here's where I'm concerned, Hermer. It feels very much like you are standing by yourself here. And when you find yourself in this place where one group doesn't believe you and isn't invested in what you're talking about, and the other group that usually would say, oh yeah, no, you're one of us, is also pushing you out and saying, get out of the church, you might want to reevaluate where you're standing, because usually that tends to lead to conspiracy theory and to going so far outside of the realm of anything that you are suddenly by yourself. So if you are finding that you have trouble connecting with anybody around your beliefs, that's a good little bit of a red flag to be like, why is nobody else aware of this? Now, it could be that you, of course, it could be that you are on the right track and everyone else is wrong. A more likely situation is you kind of left the farm, which is, something you want to take a look at.
Yeah, but my brain isn't highly developed, so I'm not able to be receptive of ideas.
See, I disagree, Hermer. Actually, I entirely disagree. Because here's the thing, man.
I'm only 24, so
well, hold on,
I'm not
Hermer.
going to sound as intellectual as Eric Murphy or Bianca, but I'm trying here. I'm trying.
Trust me, Hermer, that is a low bar, my friend.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, man, is we're talking to Hermer, and we're addressing ideas and we're addressing beliefs. But the reason we're talking to you is because you are not your beliefs. You are a rational human who, when given information, can adjust how they see the world to better and more clearly understand it. And because of that, you are worth our time to talk to. Because I think that you can see that difference. I think that we're laughing at ideas, but we're not laughing at you.
Yeah.
Largely because we've seen it elsewhere. I mean, how many people in the chat are saying that this is a troll or a Poe? No, dude. We've seen a whole lot of these kinds of beliefs. And so it's worth our time to talk to you and say, Hermer, we care enough to want to do this show so that we can help give you the tools to decipher things.
Yeah.
It really does come down to...
might change my beliefs, though.
So?
Even
That's
though
okay. What if you believe something wrong?
I don't think...
What if you believe something wrong?
I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong. But
I understand
I'm just presenting something. I'm presenting a proposition and seeing if you're going to, accept it based on what I believe.
But wouldn't it be better to come to a conversation where both sides are open? Because if you gave us compelling, convincing evidence, we could change our beliefs too. Mm-hmm. The thing is there's no value in sticking yourself in the mud and not moving. If you believe something that is not true, wouldn't it be good to know that?
But is the evidence is not true?
If the statement isn't true.
See where I'm coming from?
Well, no, I don't. So again,
there's evidence is not true, and there's evidence that it could be true. So
does that mean that everything's equal? It doesn't matter? Just throw the whole thing out? Everybody's right?
I mean, it's a 50-50.
No, there's not a 50-50. No, there's not a 50-50. Let me show you. Name 3 gods.
There's only one God, the Bible God.
Name 3. Well,
Christian
they're all
God
fiction to me, dude. So
there's only one God. You can't name 3 gods.
Okay, let me help. Zeus, Poseidon, and help me. Ra. Are those 3 gods?
Those could be subordinates of God.
Just follow me, Hermer,
Are those
please.
3 entities or ideas that other people would call
Just
God?
name 3 subordinate entities.
Are you? Is this? I'm trying to make a point, dude. Follow me for just a minute.
We're not trying to get you to commit idolatry here.
No.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if people have thought that those 3 deities were also God, that means it's not 50-50, because now we add your God on top, and that means it's 1 in 4. So now you have a 25% chance of being right.
True.
Now, are there only that many? No, actually, there are thousands and thousands of different ideas, concepts, and religions that revolve around deities.
Are they logical gods? Are they logical gods? Do they come with prophecy?
The idea,
do they prophesy what's going on in today's world? Do they prophesy what goes on in today's world?
Yeah. I feel like you probably have a script, and that's fine to get you started, but, let's move off that.
Sounds good. Take it easy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. we were trying to actually connect and talk to Hermer.
Yeah.
And instead he went back to repeating the same thing over and over again, regardless. And there's no conversation there.
Right. If you call in and you've got a little bit of a script, that's fine. Look, I see a caller, I write down a little bit of like, oh, let me write this down so I know where to go next, right? So I don't forget. That's fine. But if you call in and you're not ready to have a conversation and move off of that script, if that's where the conversation goes, then there's really no point in talking to you because all you want to do is stick to the script. And we don't have your script, so it's really hard to pull off.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Kevin or Kendall?
We're talking to Kevin again?
Oh, we're not?
Are we?
Oh, wait. Is that Kevin, isn't it?
Is that Kevin?
Okay. No, we're not talking to that Kevin. I
Sorry,
just dropped
psych, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. Kendall in Seattle. Thank you. Good call. Kendall, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, what's up? From last week, remember?
Yes.
Hey, yeah.
You're not just saying that, are you?
No, I totally remember.
And it's kind of funny because last week was just the objective, subjective truth and morality episode.
Yeah.
Like everybody called in about that. So I might have a couple of the things you said mixed up with a prior caller.
Right.
But
Right.
But as long as we're not just
I'm
having the
trying to be
exact
specific.
yeah, as long as we're not having the exact same conversation, we're bringing new topics.
No,
Right,
no.
well, assuming that people
Yeah.
haven't seen last week's episode, Kendall, do you want to give us like a 5-second summary of what we talked about last time so
Yeah,
we know
that's a
exactly
good
who
point.
you are?
Sure, I'll try. So yeah, I asked you, if Christianity was true or proven true, would you become a Christian and by
right. I
repenting
remember
your
it.
sins?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
now
And then
I actually.
Go ahead.
Oh no! What I was going to say, Kendall, is when I went back and watched that episode, I did have a couple thoughts after the fact, and
Sure, go ahead.
I think I want to clarify them. And so
Sure,
one
go
of
ahead.
them.
I wanted to clarify mine too.
Cool.
Perfect.
Okay,
Great.
cool. So what I wanted to clarify is you said if it turned out that God was real, we could verify it, and we were convinced. Would we repent of our sins and believe? Well, the thing is I would definitely have no choice to believe because it's obvious right there. Now, the repenting of sins thing is kind of interesting because if I know that there's a gun to my head, I'm going to do what I need to do to stay alive. Right? If somebody was going to throw me into eternal damnation, yeah, you better believe I'm going to do the hokey pokey or whatever it takes not to go there. But that doesn't mean that I think that God is a good guy.
Mhm.
I actually think that somebody who would do that kind of thing is reprehensible in the extreme. But that doesn't mean my actions would be different. There are even atheists in the comments underneath who are saying, how could you believe a God that was so evil? And it's like, those are different ideas.
Yeah.
Entirely different, because you can believe in something that's evil, right? We don't want to make the mistake of going, the Holocaust was terrible. It just makes me feel bad to think about, therefore it's not true.
Right.
Something can be bad and still true. And so I just wanted to make sure that I clarified, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, Kendall, by calling in, of saying, I would believe that God is there, and I would do what it takes not to go to hell. But I would also think that God is a moral monster.
Right. Well, I wouldn't. I don't think that's the right way to describe it. That's not really a good example. But maybe I can touch upon that later if we have time. I just want to get right to the issue or the description or what I was trying to say. So yeah, we were talking about so you guys wanted a clear definition of personal preference and kind of subjective morality. So
yes, we were asking you for that last week.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you did your homework.
Personal preference.
Hold on a second.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I wanted to get this right. So personal preference is is a set of qualities that make a person or thing distinct from another. And, morality is kind of the recognition of the distinction between good and evil or right and wrong. Okay, so let's just say, murdering Jews is wrong. Okay, so now if that is true, the question becomes, says who, and why is that wrong? So, according to objective morality, murdering Jews is wrong because God says it's wrong, and God says it's wrong because it's inherently contrary to his own nature, which involves harming the well-being of sentient life.
I think that is a very well stated description of that.
So I like that description.
I just wanted
to. Sorry, are you not done yet? Don't want to interrupt you if you're on a roll.
Because I wanted to make it so you can respond the best way. That's all. This is your show and everything, but
no, go for it.
Yeah, and also, sorry, I was going to say there's also a bit of a delay. I was actually speaking to someone recently who called in, and they didn't recognize the delay, and we didn't recognize the delay until like a week later when we watched it, and it sounded like we were talking over people, and that's not the intent. So please go ahead.
Right. I got you. So according to subjective morality, that is wrong because society says it's wrong, and society says it's wrong because it's objectively wrong to harm the well-being of sentient life. And then personal preference is it's wrong because society said it's wrong, and society says it's wrong because they said so, or they didn't like it. In other words, truth, when it comes to personal preference, truth is relative and morality is relative. And objective morality, it's truth is objective and morality is objective.
Okay, well, let's that's actually perfect. Let's zoom out just a little bit. So is it God's subjective opinion what's moral and immoral?
Is God's is this moral or moral? I'm not sure how to yeah, it is, but it's based upon his moral character, which is objectively moral.
That sounds, I got you. That sounds like a special rule you're making for your God that we don't get to put anywhere else.
Right. Well, why can't I just say that things are objectively moral because I've decided that they're objectively moral and they're my preference because they come from my personal character?
Because you're a contingent being.
Oh, okay.
And God is not a contingent being. So he has a right. He has the authority. He is absolute.
So we're going down the
subjective morality and objective morality.
It sounds like we're going down the ontological route. I don't think so. Here's my challenge. I don't think you're justified in making that claim about God. I'm not saying that you're wrong, and I would love for you to show me that you're right. But from where I'm sitting, where I've seen in the conversations that I've had, I have not yet seen a good justification for that. And so my question to you is, why? So you're giving all of these properties to God, including that God is a non-contingent being.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that?
Well, I mean, it's, it was kind of going off of the question from last week. It's a hypothetical question. So it's like, even if, it's not true, remember, it's if it was proven true that Christianity,
Yes, yes, and we grant.
But if you want me to go, just answer that.
Right. We grant a lot of these hypotheticals to get to the meat of the issue, right? So we're like, okay, well, if God were real, what about objective morality makes you think that it comes from that God, right? And so we're having that conversation. But if we get to the point where you circle back to, it's objective morality because of God, now we have to talk about God and whether or not God exists, right? So we had a hypothetical conversation, well, if God existed, to get to the meat of the issue, which turns out to be whether or not God exists. So now we have to dig in here.
Yeah. And I think one of the good ways to do that is to try and draw comparisons. So you say that your God is non-contingent. I will say that I am non-contingent. How do we determine? How do we piece that apart?
Well, obviously, it would be science. You know, how do we determine truth? That's epistemology. Obviously, you know, determining, that's something different. I mean, sure, if you want to talk about, that's kind of going away from what we were talking about. Well, I was trying to get the meat of the issue, but sorry.
No, that's okay. You're making a statement about the ontology, the existence of that God, and not whether or not we think about that. That is fair. Now, in evaluating that, we do have to think about it. And so that is where we move into epistemology. Right. And so you made a truth statement. I don't think it's justified. And so what I'm probing is, what's your justification? Because if you have a good justification, I would like to have that too. So you said that your God is non-contingent. Okay, well, how do we determine the difference between your non-contingent God and non-contingent Eric? You said science?
Well, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I agree. We could take a 23andMe test for Eric. Can we do a 23andMe test for God? Mm-hmm. That doesn't work.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. That was the whole point of the question. Is like, if that was true, would you even repent? Would you, because it goes back to truth. We were talking about if your answer was, the question, would you answer is yes? If that answer is yes, then your reasons for being an atheist is based upon intellectual reasons. But if your answer is no, then it's not based upon, it's just based on personal bias. Yeah, so I don't see the point of even answering that question. You know what I'm saying? Because if your answer isn't yes to the question, then what's the point?
I'd be happy to clarify. So we hit that last week. Mm-hmm. I think moving into this week, we moved from is to ought.
Yeah. And
the is the ontological point. Now we moved into ought. Right? Ought. So the question that got brought up was objective morals, right? Where does that come from? Right. And so B said that they are the source for objective morals. You're saying God is the source for objective morals. And so when we asked you to piece those apart, you kind of appealed to that's not the conversation. If you don't want to have that conversation, fine. But we were trying to follow you where you were going.
Oh, okay. I'm not. Oh, okay. I'll just go with it. I mean, I just didn't feel like it was, relevant, but I'll just go with it. So, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
How do we tell the difference between a contingent and a non-contingent being? So far, both of us have claimed about the same thing. So neither of us are contingent. How do we start to piece apart the difference between us and your God? How do we test that claim?
So the difference is well, I guess Jesus. It would be Jesus. What he's done, he has basically proven through his life that he was. Well, hold on. Give me a second.
Sure, take your time.
Yeah, give me a second, just real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
In the meantime.
Not too long, obviously.
V and I can talk in the meantime. I think that's an interesting place to come from is that contingent, non-contingent. I know you and I have spent late nights talking about this particular subject. But what I think the problem may be for Kendall here is that I think that you can test a lot of things about us.
Right.
But if you cannot do that same test for God, then
those tests aren't a good metric to use in the first place.
Exactly. And that's okay. That just means that we need to find a metric that works for both.
Right.
And
right.
If that's the case, then that is a good challenge.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that statement is justified.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. So what would be a test that you could run on both God and Eric and me?
Unless you want to go with something else. I wanted to try.
No. I'm ready. I got this. I got this, man. All right. So the criteria in really determining whether God is, omnibenevolent is the laws of absolutes. So, the attributes of God would have to work in accordance with each other. He is who he is, law of identity, and he cannot be who he is at the same time, the law of non-contradiction. So he cannot make himself cease to exist. He cannot make a square circle because that would conflict with his omniscience. And so he has to be true to his attributes. To do otherwise was to deny himself. So this means that the objective moral values cannot exist without an objective moral lawgiver to ground those truths into existence. So to prove it, I'm about to get it. To prove it,
you made a lot of claims there. I would hate to not respond to some of those because you made a bunch of them really quickly.
Right. Well, I was just making. Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay.
That is actually a really interesting argument. I don't know if I've heard it in that configuration before, so I'm excited.
I've definitely thought about it in that configuration. I don't know if I've heard it in that configuration.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the all powerful, the one that really stood out to me is God can't make a square circle, because I think that contradicts omnipotence.
Well, that was my question. We are defining an absolute non-contingent God being contingent on the laws of logic. So does that mean that God is contingent on the laws of logic and logic is actually what is non-contingent? Like, it feels like we're just pushing it down to, that infinite regress to stop it. Whatever stops that infinite regress is non-contingent. Yeah. And we just put the word on it. So based on your explanation, Kendall, my question is, doesn't that make God contingent on logic?
No, that's kind of like the same. That's like the youth rule dilemma, but you're applying it to the whole logical absolutes. No, like I said before, with the moral part, murder is wrong because God says it's wrong, and God says it's wrong because it's inherently contrary to his nature, which is objectively good. You can say the same thing with the logical absolutes.
Well, I'm also bound by the laws of logic. Does that mean that I am the source of the laws of logic?
No, it doesn't mean that. I mean, okay. No.
So I'm confused why one means God is bound by the laws of logic, therefore he must be the source of logic. So I'm also bound by the laws of logic.
No, I didn't say the source. He is logic.
I am logic.
That's his definition.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the definition. That's actually what God is.
Okay, so we're defining V as logic.
Yes, God is the logical absolute. He is
the illogical absolute.
He's logic, and
this is getting obnoxious.
He that's what he is. I can give you this. This is not me making stuff
Here's
up.
The thing.
I can give you.
Yeah, is that is not a good answer.
Why is that?
Because I just gave you a defeater. The defeater is apply that exact same definition to literally anything else, and I don't think you can make it tell the difference. Actually, I think you could even apply that to non. I could say that this book is logic. I could say that this cup is logic. It makes just as much sense.
Right. This is. I was trying to get to your overall point. Is that to determine that this is true, that the difference between you and God, because you can just say anything. In fact, you can say my God said this and my God said this, and then we're back to it being subjective.
It's the whole point of this book of Eric.
Well,
to make that.
I think that got really good. You answered the initial question, right? Which is, what is a test that we could used to test both
Right.
a non-contingent God and a contingent person, and it's adheres to the law.
I want to get to that.
Okay, cool. That is a good proposition, but we just defeated it by saying that it applies to both, so it doesn't weed anything out. So it's not useful to make a differentiation, right? Because if God is compelled by the laws of logic because he is logic, and I'm also compelled by the laws of logic, then that's
Because
not
you are
actually
logic.
because I'm logic. I was trying to avoid that because it's getting annoying. But
No, I want that as a meme.
no, do you see where we're coming from? I think it was a good try, and it was a good example of something that could be applied to both theoretically, but it does apply to both, so it doesn't cancel one out. So we have to find something else.
Yeah, it's like saying the murderer has brown hair and all of your suspects have brown hair.
Yeah. That was just a part of it. You got to start with philosophy in order to get to the empirical part. That science is guided by philosophy. So I was just getting to the philosophical part and then get to the empirical part. You got what I mean? So all that needs to be proven to. Yeah, don't you agree with that, right?
I think that there are different ways to approach it. I think that if there were physical empirical proof of God, that these conversations would probably not be necessary. But
no, not necessarily, but
really, I mean, yeah. If we
there's a reason a priori arguments are the things that we use to try and prove God, because
yeah. So, but anyway,
yeah. I don't get to what you want to do.
I don't think you passed that test. I think the logic that you brought isn't sufficient. I would love for you to bring.
Right, it's not.
Okay, I'm glad you agree.
It's not. I was going to get. Yeah,
so
it's not enough. It's not enough. I agree. I said I agree.
Okay, let's throw that one out though. If it's not useful, then let's throw it out.
Well, no, it's a starting point to where I'm going to get to.
But it's a bad starting point. We just agreed that it's not a good point, so why bring it up? See, that's the thing is that's something that we've seen over and over again.
Yeah,
is a whole lot of people calling in, making a point, saying, you know what, that's a really good, I'm not, and then the next day using the exact same argument. Why? I'm not asking you for you to answer for everyone, but just for Kendall. Kendall, if you go out and you use that argument that we just talked about and we agreed is a bad argument, then why don't you bin it? Toss it in the trash.
No. It's not a bad. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't say it was a bad argument.
Okay, so how is it a good argument?
It becomes a good argument based upon the evidence once you support it.
So we asked you, and we explored that idea fully with you. And maybe just the test that we applied today wasn't a good test. But Kendall, I challenge you to, and you do your homework, which is amazing. Hold on, I got a sound effect and I never got to do it. A caller did their homework. We love it. Kendall, I challenge you to come up with a good test to be able to tell the difference between V as a non-contingent being, or if you're uncomfortable with that, this mug, myself, or this book, and your God being non-contingent. Because I think that would be really interesting to explore, because I feel like that's where the argument fell apart.
I don't know about that. I think you just didn't allow me to finish.
Oh,
that's what it was.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to do that, but I do have it. I do have it on the clock, so I do want to make sure that we get to all the callers.
Right, man. Right, I got you. I was trying to do that though, be as fast as I can, but it's all right. We can probably just do it at a different time.
Man, say your piece. Go for it.
Are you sure? Okay. So yeah, I was just going to say that all that needs to be proven to show that God is, omnibenevolent, is to prove that it's the Judeo-Christian God who laid out the moral standards and duties in the Bible. So an example would be Jesus. He's supposed to be a personification of God's absolute moral goodness and authority. because he fulfilled the moral law by not breaking the moral laws within the Old Testament, and then living a sinless life, as well as revealed himself to be God from the resurrection. As a result, Jesus became an objective moral lawgiver that grounded those objective moral laws into reality that are now written in New Testament scripture. So that's the difference. You don't have a sinless lifestyle. You can't. That just shows that you're contingent.
No,
Jesus
dude,
is not contingent.
Are you saying that Jesus wasn't contingent? Because I'm pretty sure there's a verse that was required to happen before he showed up.
Yeah. So I'm saying that's what it's supposed to be in the Bible. So that's the difference.
So here's the thing. There was a caller a long time ago, with Jenna,
okay,
who was wondering. They said that they were Jewish, and they said that the only way that I could be wrong, they told me, is if I can find a fish with no scales and no fins.
Right.
Then I would know that God does not exist. And I feel like that's starting to get in that direction, because
you could say, well,
you need to live a sinless life to even compare to the thing that I'm saying and not backing up. And I think that that's not a good way to go about it.
It's like saying, we can prove that coffee is hot because here's a hot thing, and now we just have to prove that coffee exists. Right? There are it doesn't quite follow. That's not a valid.
But I think you broke up so many different arguments in there that I'm just tickled. I'm excited. We do need to move on to the next caller, but Kendall, thank you for calling in, man.
Yeah, definitely call back.
Sure. Okay then. Thanks, speaking, man. See ya.
Absolutely. Ooh, I want to talk to Joe in Oklahoma.
Let's do it.
Joe, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about? Hi.
Hi, thank you for picking up my call. I actually didn't know exactly what time your show was, but I was referred this week. It's the first time I've heard the show.
Oh,
cool.
Awesome.
It says that you're a religious person. Is that true?
Well, I would have to be qualified that. That's what people call me.
Okay, so what do you think of the show so far?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, no, I think you were just answering what I was about to ask. I was saying, what do you think of the show so far?
Oh, I enjoy it. I really, like I was telling the screener, I don't believe, even according to the Bible, that it's possible to have faith unless you have it grounded in a skepticism that leads to reason, a very solid reason. Then you get hope and then faith and love that come from that. So I would never diminish the idea of skepticism and reason. It just
nice.
reducing the amount of bias we have.
That
reducing our bias.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that puts you in a no worry. With the delay the way it is, it's going to happen. As long as we're patient with each other, we should be okay. But that puts you, I was going to say, that puts you on rarefied ground. I've definitely met a good couple of apologists who definitely
if you don't mind, I'm going to rareify that ground even more. Okay.
Go for it. Blow our minds.
I have a copyright on the Bible, and you probably don't have too many callers that say that.
Nope. I highly doubt it's enforceable, but that's probably not the direction you want to go with the call.
I don't even look to lawyers for the idea of enforcing it in the earth. I actually believe there's greater reality, and I trust that. I'm not looking to fight anyone. I'm just looking to establish facts.
Well, let's dive into some of the things that we don't agree with to see if we can find, because you said that there's a greater reality. What is this greater reality?
Yes. Well, I'm going to establish the first fact that lets us know that there's a greater reality regarding understanding the Bible than humanity ever had until I copyrighted this version of it. Okay? If you go to Stephen Wells' Skeptics Annotated Bible, 5 of his first 10 contradictions that he lists is that there's 2 creation accounts that do not agree with each other. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't discover his book till 2016, although I resolved those 5 conflicts in 2010. The Bible has a paradox in the beginning. There are two contradictory creation accounts, but if you follow the instructions, they become one.
So
they tell a whole different story. Yes.
So are you fashioning yourself as a prophet?
I'm not fashioning myself as anything. I'm just telling you that the Bible has a fuller message, and there's thousands of years of testimony that say that the message of the Bible, the gospel, doesn't start till chapter 3. And I have a copyright that begins in chapters 1 and 2. And since I was a kid, I was taught 1 and 2 come before 3. So
I think he's talking about
in the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, chapter 5, it says that there was a book that no one was worthy to open, and it had 7 seals. And no one could figure it out until now. And I'm just saying it is the Bible. Yeah, if you go to www.
Hold on, Joe. Joe, hold on. So we definitely don't
raise money. I don't raise money. If you want to get the information after the phone call. What?
So, well, hold on. You're making some very big claims. Number one, those claims presuppose that the Bible and God and all of those things are true. So when you refer to them, they hold zero weight with us. That might hold weight with a Christian, but it definitely holds zero weight with us. So referring back to Revelations, you might as well do the same with Lord of the Rings.
No.
So
No, I'm not talking about a prophecy. Hold on just a second. I'm talking about facts that can be followed up on. It's an ancient piece of literature. It has a puzzle in the beginning, and its last book, it gives you the keys to opening up that puzzle.
Right.
So you're saying that in the book of Revelation is the key to a puzzle in chapters 1 and 2 of Genesis?
Well, even more than being the key, because the keys are in there, it actually says that a puzzle exists, a book that no one could open. It had 7 seals.
Sure.
Also, open it.
Also, how many rings were forged in Mordor?
9 for the Elven Kings under the sky, 7 for the Dwarf Lords in our halls of stone, 9 for mortal men born
I'm
to
sure
die.
that's a very meaningful story too.
So okay, now we have 2 mythologies. If you're going to convince us, you've got to give us something extra biblical, because so far that what you just said and what V just said are equal in my mind. Help me. Why should I take you seriously? Why should I take you seriously?
No, but the thing is, if the author that regarding those rings didn't make a logical story, why would you ever even sit down to watch and enjoy it or read it?
For entertainment.
Am I correct? I'm not going to watch a stupid story unless I'm maybe smoking weed, which I don't do.
Well, I love playing video games and reading fiction. I love fantasy. I love playing D&D. I mean, there are plenty of things that I do that
But they're still consistent. They're consistent stories, and you expect to find a plot and discover things.
Okay, how's that different from the Bible?
Well, it's not.
Okay, so then we're in agreement. So what are we talking about?
Yes.
It sounds like you're an atheist.
So I'm giving you some facts to check out that the Bible actually has 2 disagreeing accounts because they are a puzzle. It's a paradox. And I'm telling you, I put it together. And by doing so, the Bible tells a whole different story starting in the beginning. And that story becomes a bizarre challenge to all of mankind.
Well, it is bizarre. I can agree with you there.
Well, so here's the thing, man.
Well,
there are people who've called in. I'm sure you've heard of the Bible Code, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are plenty of people who've called in who said that they believe in the Bible Code, that if you apply certain numbers and look at specific letters in a certain way, that you can pull out hidden pieces of information. In fact, I had what was it? Who was the caller? Was it Kevin who called in to talk about secret messages in the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay, there are plenty of callers who've done that.
How much? Yeah.
And I actually spent hours researching what he brought up, and ultimately it boils back down to secret, hidden information, secrets that need to be unlocked. And the thing is, it's so far it's a game. Now,
let me give you some. Yeah, I think the likelihood is that the evidence you would pick up quickly would say we may well be living in a game, or there's someone intelligent that's playing games with us. It doesn't mean they actually created us. But,
Well,
but
that's
the
a fun
idea that
claim.
the Bible had the idea that the Bible had a very simple puzzle in the beginning, and that has been resolved thousands of years after it was there, I think it tells a significant amount about the arrogance that's actually in the human psyche regarding our knowledge or lack of it of the Creator, and our desire to defend our bias rather than seek the truth.
So
I think the puzzle there was for that purpose.
the thing is, Joe, what you just said, I think applies to you.
Of course, it applies to everyone.
Okay, so then why would you be worth our time? Why should we listen to Joe? So, because here's the thing, man, if you're pointing at the result to justify the means, then we're not going to follow you there. There are lots of results that can come from different means. I want you to justify your means.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You said that there's a puzzle in the Bible.
It may not be worth your time to test my claim. Okay, it may not be worth your time to test my claim, but I'll put at least this significant part in there. When you remove the contradictions by putting the two accounts together, you find man is made on day 3 in the story. That would be a man being raised to life would be a type of the resurrection. I'm not saying that means you should believe in the resurrection. I'm just saying that the story has an earlier testimony of the resurrection than chapter 3.
Joe,
and
I think, number one, I think you broke V. Number 2, I think you may have left the phone.
I missed the word.
No, that's okay. There's a lot there that I think lends itself to wanting yourself to be special, conspiracy mindsets, and there are things that we can ask you. We tried going down that road, right? We're trying to ask you questions to flesh it out, and so far you're just going back to your tagline. So I'll try one more time before we move on to the next call. Okay, I want you to answer this instead of going back to the line. And the question is, how do you know that what you're saying is true? How do you know that the process that you're using is correct?
Well, one of the ways is I went to one of the leading Bible publishers, and I brought him my work back in 2016, and I followed up for 3 years, even though he was slow getting back to me. But after 3 hours of meetings where he was tremendously excited, the only reason they aren't publishing the book is it would be controversial, and it goes against their guidelines in that fashion.
Okay, there are plenty of publishers. There's plenty of self-publishing, and also that's just not how research works. On top of that, flat earthers say that. You now have the exact amount of credibility as a flat earther.
A flat earther? That's funny, because when I discovered this stuff, I was looking to correct a guy that thought that the Earth was the center of the solar system, and he thought it was day 4 in the Bible that convinced him of that. So I was going to help him see the benefits of Copernicus and let go of some of his craziness. That's why I went there. What I discovered was something other.
Are you a flat earther, Joe?
No, sir. No, I helped him with his weak view of the universe, but no, I'm not.
Okay, so
I actually took a literal.
Yeah,
record.
Here's the deal. I do want you to call back. I want to point out that there are a lot of claims that were made here. Claims about Genesis, claims about Exodus, claims about Revelation. There were claims about your process. There were claims about the results of your process. And each of those things can be its own conversation. And what I want to do is I'm glad. What I want to do is I want to narrow in on one of those so that we can have a meaningful conversation about one of those things. I think that we've run out of time for this week, but I would love for you to, because I'm going to go back and listen to this, I would love for you to pick one of those claims and call back in so that we can go more in depth, because right now we're very, very broad and shallow. And what I want to do is I want to get very, very deep and narrow. I want to zoom in on some of these things because I want to know whether or not you're justified in doing them.
Yeah, and you'd have to verify looking at a very simple 2-page correlation of two accounts that have been written for a long time. I'm sure you've read them and seen all kinds of stuff in there that don't make sense.
Sure.
And look at the one that I put together.
Mail at
And
talking.
so I could give you that web address offline.
No,
You can
shoot
download
it to
for
me.
free.
Mail at talkheathen.com. If it feels if we see value in it, we can push it out from there. Sound good?
Mail it where?
Oh, at talkheathen.com.
Is there an email there, or just how does that work?
Oh, mail, MAIL at.
Oh,
Talk
mail at Talk
Mhm.
Heathen. Okay, I got it. All right.
All righty, man. Thanks
All
for
right, yeah,
calling.
I'll send it to you.
All right.
All right, take care.
Sorry, I kind of left you there.
That is okay. There's a pinata there that is just dying for some attention. I want to shake that out. So that gets me excited. Good. I want to thank the patrons.
Let's do that.
Cool. I want to thank our top 5 patrons. Our top 5 patrons this week are Dingaloo, which is just fun to say, Jay Friedman, Ribau, Ward Nippling, and Athena. Actually, so Athena is, I'm sorry if I'm doxing you. I hope I'm not. That looks like a screen name, is a $10 patron, and they are in a tie with about 10 other people.
Nice.
So if you want to support us, you can get into that top 5 pretty quickly. That said, all of you, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We couldn't do this without you. We have an amazing crew. We're going to take the next call. Patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Anyway, ready?
Yes.
All right. Aaron. And it looks like there's a pronunciation guide, Aaron, calling from Georgetown.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
We can. What's up, man?
Oh, wonderful. Hey, thank you so much, guys, for taking my call. And I've listened to you guys now for this really, I feel like this show is the best show on the platform. Although I haven't seen V's new show, but I've really enjoyed listening to you guys. I am I'm an atheist, an agnostic atheist, but I have only admitted that to myself over the past 2.5 or 3 months.
Yay!
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's been difficult going through this, going through COVID and being in isolation. And my wife and I've been very thankful that my wife and I have we've deconstructed faith over a number of years, and then we have left the faith together.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's amazing! You lucky bastard.
I know. Thank you. But there's been a lot of things that have helped me along the way. I grew up Church of Christ. I don't want to go like headlong into a full testimony, because I know that doesn't always make for great radio.
Yeah, we're short on time. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, I grew up Church of Christ, and I wanted to be a preacher when I was just 10 years old. And man, I really hook, line, and sinker to everything. I used to tell on people for saying curse words, and I never drank alcohol until I was out of college. I went to a Church of Christ college, which, in hindsight, this seems baffling to me that they can take all of that. I can get knee deep in student loans and it be that kind of education. I honestly, things that really helped me, there was a small group of community. You guys have helped immensely. Anthony Magabosco has been immensely helpful in helping me understand what epistemology even is, and really exploring my faith, exploring what I was calling faith for so long. And Science Mike was another podcaster who taught me what sciences were. And the thing that I wanted to call and talk to you guys about was, and you actually touched on it with a gentleman that has called in several times. I believe he's Muslim, and Habib, was that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. So you actually kind of you went in that direction that I was kind of wanting to go. So something that I now accept our model of evolution. It was like a light bulb had clicked off in my head, because I had said what conservative Christians said for a long time, which is, if you put your head in the sand long enough and you don't really pay attention to logic and reason, then you can have a quick comeback and feel justified in saying anything. But I would say things like, "Oh, I've never seen a one species evolve into another," and "You can't convince me I came from an ape," or "I used to be a chimp." And now I'm seeing that for the past several years I've seen evolution as even species naming is something that is that you have to. It's almost like putting a pin on a moving target. If every generation is drifting a little bit further away from the last generation, then
absolutely agreed, because there's no end point, right? It's not like we finished evolving. Like, we're continuing to evolve to adapt to our environment. So absolutely, totally understood.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, the understanding of name what a Homo sapien is, like, how far back can you go and still pinpoint someone as a Homo sapien versus we could definitely say, well, today you and I and V, we're all all three of us and everyone listening to this is Homo sapien. However, unless we're talking in the future, and then maybe they don't identify as Homo sapien.
Anyway,
yeah, let's. While I love this, I do want to get to what you wanted to ask.
So my point in bringing that up is how I'm trying to understand, I no longer deposit God as God's the reason why I have morality. I loved what you talked about earlier, where you said that isn't God just layering in another layer of subjectivity in when you're trying to define a moral framework. At what point back do you think that our ancestors, likely mammalian ancestors, would have reasoned out that murder and rape were bad things?
I think it happened as soon as we became. I think it happened as soon as we became a social species. When we depend on each other, we look out for each other, and it's something that we see in tons of other social species. I think that while I am very, very shallow in my knowledge of this, I think that there is an incredible book by Hector Garcia called Alpha God that actually dives into that. Hector is a personal friend and an amazing author. If you haven't checked out Alpha God, I think that would go a huge way into helping.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Hector's great. There are some other things to keep in mind here, right? So we discovered, it was a very exciting discovery, and I, for the life of me, can't remember who discovered it. So apologies for whoever I'm forgetting right now. But they discovered a remnant of an early hominid person with what appeared to be a mended broken bone. Right. And it was mind blowing. And at first you're like, why does that matter? Like, this person had a bone that had broken and it fused back together. Isn't that what bones do? But the key here is it was different because every other animal, if you have a broken leg, you're left to die. That's all. That's it. You die. You're done. But it proved that this early species was able to care for the person with the broken leg enough to keep it alive while it healed, which indicated that from a very early on standpoint, we had that concept of caring for each other and building kind of a community. So there's archaeological evidence for exactly what you're asking that goes back quite a ways. But also I would say that a lot of it is utilitarian, right? A lot of it is, if I go over to that tribe and kill someone or rape someone, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. I'm either going to bring wrath down on my entire group of people, or I'm going to be exiled from my group and be left to fend for myself, or I'll just be taken out in the middle of the night by somebody who came into my camp and, killed me as vengeance. There is a lot of survival instinct that goes into that. And I think that combined with mirror neurons and the concept of consciousness. So when you not only can feel what another person is feeling, but also rationalize why and find a connection between that other person, then not only is it beneficial in a survival sense, it also becomes something that we feel deeply, which is morality, right? Which is I feel connected to you. I'm in pain when you're in pain. Stuff actually fires in my brain when I see you suffering. And my consciousness allows me to rationalize that into, oh, suffering is bad. I don't want that to happen to me. I should stop it from happening to that person.
Absolutely. And I would love to just tie on there just a little bit as well. And that is that tribalism is a double-edged sword, because that tribalism also can explain racism, bigotry. Those mirror neurons fire less strongly the more the other person looks different from you. And it's an evolutionary thing that was beneficial when we were small tribes, but now actually works against us. So it's just kind of fun seeing that, it's not just all beneficial.
Right.
We've got some bad issues because of it too.
Interesting. I really appreciate that perspective. One thing that I wonder if I do, I'm kind of wrestling with this whole idea. Is there objective morality without a Godhead? Is all morality subjective? It sure does feel wrong. If I were to see chimpanzees raping each other, I would think that's wrong. But am I projecting my morality onto a species that has not evolved to understand that as, to not have that moral framework? And I also kind of think, like, if someday we're visited by, if someday we actually get to the point where we can meet other sentient species that we're able to have conversations with, what would they think that our moral framework is completely bankrupt and corrupted, and because they've evolved to have a different set? I love all things Star Trek, but I wonder, like, how much of a federation could we ever even have, right?
Exactly. No, that is the most sci-fi element of the entire sci-fi premise, is that we could do that.
I would even challenge you and say that, specifically with your rape example, I don't think we as a society are past that. Not to the degree that we want to be.
I agree.
So that said, though, we got to move on. You seem like the kind of guy I would love to have a beer with. I'd love to hear from you again. It seems like you are literally right next door to Austin. That being the case, I
really want to get down there and meet people and become involved. And by the way, you've got killer call screeners. I love those people. I've had some problems getting patched through because of my connection, but every time they are they're so good.
Can we show our crew?
It's really great.
Is that something we can do?
Crew cam.
There they are. Look at you guys. That is an amazing cast. That is an amazing crew. We love you guys so much, and we absolutely agree. And the crew cat, of course.
Of course.
Thank you. And I agree. They are amazing.
And when COVID stuff does get lifted, we'll definitely. I would love to meet both you guys in person. We'll definitely grab a beer. I would love that.
First one's on me.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'll take it.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Brad, that is a conversation that I think, that's another caller on the line. Brad, I think that's a conversation that I'd love to take in Discord. We're going to be popping up the link to the Discord on the lower third. Please, if you get the chance to hop over into the Discord, I'd love to chat about it. But we're bouncing up against time, and I feel terrible because Brad has waited on the line for an hour and a half.
Also, this is something that we could talk about on secular sexuality as well. If you'd like to talk about it in this format and not on Discord, because we won't have too much time there, you can tune into Secular Sexuality, which is another ACA show where we talk specifically about issues of sex and gender and all of that. And that's at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. So we can't take you now, but I'd love to talk to you there. I'm on that show as well, and that's exactly
callers, okay.
No, it's still for the ACA.
I know. That said, thank you so much. I do feel like such a jerk leaving people on the line like that, and I hope that they call in. And just for people who are watching, we're not trying to hush around. It's about dealing with bigoted family members.
Yeah.
And I think it's an incredible conversation to have. I just don't think we have enough time to give it justice.
Also, everybody who watches Secular Sexuality, a lot of them have similar stories. And so you will find a lot of empathy there and a lot of people who can give you advice on that Discord in that live chat. So I hope to hear from you then.
And way more resources too.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we don't end soon, we're not going to get the chance to go to Discord.
Yeah.
And we really want to do that. So can we show that crew cam again? We just want to show you off. There you are.
Beautiful people.
Thank you so much. All of you. We sincerely appreciate it. This could not happen without you. What I absolutely love is I've talked to people after the fact who've gone, holy crap, that is such a professional, thing. They called ahead, and like several days before going on the show, we had to test the connection and we had to test my equipment and all of that. And so it's just it's a quality program that's put on, and the only reason it can be put on is because there is a serious crew working behind the scenes.
Yeah. Thank
you. You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. Let's throw up some love rings. 1, 2, 3. All right. So whether you believe or not, it seems like we're going to be doing this COVID thing for a lot longer than we expected. And a lot of you are putting yourself in danger, putting yourselves at risk by being out there taking care of us. It can be from working in hospitals to stocking grocery shelves. Thank you. You're doing your job. We will continue to do ours. Like you said last week, wear a mask.
Yes, please.
To everybody else. If you don't believe, even if it's only been 2 months, welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're stuck in our homes, but you better believe we're still reaching each other. You better believe we're still reaching out. We're forging bonds. We're creating a community that is growing. And it's not just for community's sake. It's because we do have higher standards for the things that we want to understand about the world. Mm-hmm. The skepticism is important, and it is amazing when you see and get to talk to other people who agree with that.
Yeah.
So come join us. And for those of you who do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No.